Hello, hello. Welcome. If we can get everybody to come and fill in the seats. All right, so good afternoon and welcome. It is so good to see a bunch of old faces and a bunch of new ones. This is the 5th event that we have put on in the last year for the health tech ecosystem. It is so incredibly encouraging to see the momentum continue, to see this full auditorium, and to see this growing community of people that are committed to making healthcare work better for patients. We have a very full program today. We're going to begin with remarks from a bunch of different HHS leaders, and then we're going to celebrate all the companies that made general availability and production. We're going to have a fireside chat with Dr. Oz and John Doerr. And then we're going to celebrate the brave companies that are taking on the new work, the new pledges for the next year. But first, I have the honor and privilege of introducing a man who needs no introduction. He will stop at nothing to make America healthy again. He has been an extraordinary supporter of our work and our teams, and of the belief that we can and must make healthcare better for the American people. Please join me in welcoming our Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy, Jr.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Amy. Amy has done an extraordinary job leading the health tech ecosystem transformation inside this agency, and the victories that we're supporting today would not have happened without her leadership. She's truly an extraordinary asset for us here. Last year, the Trump administration made a promise to the American people: your health records belong to you, not to the hospital, not to the insurance company, not to big tech. Every American has the right to access their own medical records. And we ask that the private sector help us make that vision and that right a reality for every American. And you, the people in this room, the tech leaders, answered that call. More than 800 organizations, hospitals, health plans, EHR companies, technology companies, and patient advocates came together around one simple principle: the patient comes first, and easy access to health information is non-negotiable. It's critical for good health care. If we want our patients to be healthy, it's good for them to have access to their medical records at any time that they need them, at any hospital visit. Thank you for helping us mark the 1-year anniversary of our commitment to make American health tech great again and build a health tech ecosystem that puts patients first. At HHS, we assembled the right team for this effort. You met Amy Gleason, Dr. Oz, and Tom Keene. Because of their leadership, because of your partnership, we have achieved something that many believed was impossible. Today, for the first time in American history, patients can walk into virtually any doctor's office, hold up their cell phone, and securely share their complete medical records in seconds. 1 year ago, only 5% of Americans could import health records into an app of their choice. Today, that number is at 60%. We achieved this not through mandates, but by bringing the marketplace together around a shared mission and appealing to the idealism and practicality of companies like yours. Amy and Dr. Oz showed that when government sets clear goals, innovators respond. Industry wants to empower patients, and it's investing in making that vision real. Tom Keene deserves enormous credit as well. Under his leadership, this Trusted Exchange Framework and Common Agreement, or TEFCA, has grown from exchanging just 10 million records during its first 2 years of existence to 1.4 billion in the last 12 months. President Trump laid the foundation for TEFCA during his first term, but the Biden administration let that vision drift under layers of bureaucracy and fragmented systems. Tom put TEFCA back on course by focusing on one national framework. where health information moves securely, seamlessly, and at the speed that patients deserve. At the same time, HHS is strengthening oversight of the TEFCA network. Organizations that participate must protect patient privacy and follow the law. When we uncover information blocking or fraud or other violations, we will refer those cases to the appropriate enforcement agencies. We're going to reward innovation, and we're going to hold bad actors accountable. We're also removing unnecessary regulations that stand between patients and better care. We're reducing prior authorization burdens, improving clinical trial matching, expanding diagnostic imaging exchange, and making real price transparency a reality. In June, Dr. Oz and I announced that CMS identified more than 500 hospitals that were not complying with the Trump administration's orders on price transparency. If those hospitals continue to hide prices from patients, HHS will impose every penalty under the law, including up to $2 million for large hospitals. The days of hiding prices from American patients are coming to an end. Our goal is simple: give Americans the ability to shop for care, create a marketplace, where they can compare prices and make informed decisions before they even walk into a hospital. But this effort has never been about technology for technology's sake. It's about people. Patients deserve a healthcare system that works for them, not against them. When doctors have a complete picture of the patient's health, they make better decisions. When patients control their records, they avoid unnecessary tests, they begin treatment sooner, and they receive better care. Technology is the tool that allows all of those good things to happen, and better health is the ultimate mission. Together, we're delivering a permanent shift in American healthcare, one that is transparent, more accountable, more secure, and more centered on the American patient. Together, we're going to continue building a healthcare system worthy of the American people, and we're going to work to make America healthy again. Now I want to bring up my friend and colleague, Chris Klump, who many of you know, I think everybody here knows, and who is the current nominee for Deputy Secretary, a position I'm very, very confident that Congress will agree he belongs in. And he's been an extraordinary resource for this agency and an extraordinary leader. Thank you, Chris.
I am so grateful to get to be here with all of you. As I look out in the crowd, I see a lot of friends. I've had the privilege of getting to be a part of this industry, the health tech industry, for well over a decade, and it's a privilege to get to see you today. I'm grateful that you're here. Amy gave me the privilege of getting to talk a little bit about what's been built, to talk about how it's working, and a little bit about how patients are using it today. And so I want to talk about that because the numbers are worth saying out loud, even though I think some of you already know them. But before I do, I want to level set the stakes again of why we're here. And I thought I'd pick on one of multiple family member examples of what happens when we, all of the people in this room, don't do their jobs. I've got an extended family member. He had colorectal cancer, seemed routine, wasn't, was biopsied in the process, discovered fast-growing cancer. This was in one state. He wanted to return to his home state to receive his oncology care. Now, mind you, he was transferring from one established health system to another established health system. He couldn't get his records digitally, hasn't been able to get anything other than faxes. The fax machines got lost. He was told that he could go back out of state and get his records on CD-ROM. Meanwhile, he couldn't get an appointment scheduled with his oncologist until his records landed. So weeks, needless weeks, went by. He knew he was positive. He knew he had an issue, but he couldn't engage with the caregivers to understand what the next steps were, what the path of treatment would be, at a time of peak uncertainty where not just weeks, but days and hours and minutes matter. There's a consequence to the work that we do. It isn't for our business, it's not for bottom lines, it's not so that we can have fun political wins and headlines. It is to alleviate human suffering. It's 2026. Patients need and demand their records to flow. The people in this room, the people who have showed up, who have signed up, who have put in the hours, often being unknown, unnamed, those are the people that are making the difference. And so when I express my heartfelt gratitude to you for making the effort to be here today and to put in the tireless hours, when most of America will never know your names, I hope that you understand how sincere that is. It is deeply meaningful to me and my family. My family holds me accountable that we will do this work, that we will succeed. I suspect that you have loved ones who will hold you accountable. They know your names, and so we can't fail them. We can't let them down. So 12 months ago, we launched the health tech ecosystem. It was with 60 organizations. Today, that number has ballooned to over 800 in 12 months. That's not a mailing list. It's not people who clock it in and show up. These are people who, as I mentioned, are building to shared specifications. They're participating in work groups. They're live with real patients today in July 2026. Two things happened. First, CMS shipped some things. Second, you delivered some things. Let's articulate what those are. CMS delivered the Medicare app library. It delivered National Provider Directory. It delivered an access model for reimbursement for these novel technologies. We have Medicare in production, with Medicare claims and benefit data in production, sharing live with patients and providers across CMS-aligned networks. In turn, you stepped up and responded. What have you delivered? Many of you, every major technology company with a health product has launched something built on patient records this year, and not because we mandated it, but because we opened the data and set a floor, and you showed up and competed. Similarly, every major electronic health record, EHR, is live. Again, not because it's been mandated, but supported by the plumbing underneath. Folks like BeWell, HealthX, FAST, and FlexPA. It's carrying real patient queries for real data right now that alleviates real human suffering today. The technical model is something I think we understand, but it merits worth repeating. We've got FHIR APIs on every CMS-aligned network. USCDI v3 is now the floor. We have IL2 and AL2 identity, including Clear and ID.me. Patients verify once, they access their data anywhere. It's easy. We have 27 combination patient matching as the standard, agreed to by every major network participant. We have query response as mandatory for those network participants. It's not optional. Smart health links and a QR code, the patient's full record available as they need it, structured in FHIR, plus a human-readable summary, shareable by phone at any appointment. So the number I want you to remember, if you don't know it already, is 60%. 60% of patients today in the United States can access their own record in an app of their choice. 60%. 12 months ago, it was 5%. We think it'll be 80% by October. That's because of the work that everyone here in this room did. And it is worth celebrating. And I'm so grateful to you for doing it. I'll tell you, though, that there is something that keeps me up at night. And it's that we've built something real. The data is flowing. We have the standards. We have the authentication protocols. The apps are live. The HRs are connected. But, and I've also experienced this with my immediate family recently, patients walk into the clinic. Maybe they have their QR code, but nobody knows what to do. They don't know how to receive the information that the patient is carrying. This gap cannot persist, and this is something that we have to work on together. Infrastructure only delivers value when people use it. Multi-sided networks are definitionally multi-sided. There's our side of the network, the provider side, the payer side, and there's the patient side. We have work to do on the provider side to enable the patient side to work. Right now, patients are ahead of the providers. Those apps are live and the records are flowing, but we've got work to do, and provider adoption is something that we need to do. Now, providers are not left alone. We're calling, and we hope that providers will heed the clarion call to step up and to engage and to modify their workflows, their behaviors, to actually receive these records. And we have ways to help and support them right now. We're not asking them to do this alone. We have a CMS page that talks about any provider doing whatever they need, how to integrate with their EHR by EHR, exactly how to receive a smart health link QR code. There's an open source kill the clipboard implementation in EHR can use. The National Provider Directory tells patients whether their doctor is ready. And on the patient side, we've got the apps, we've got the consumer tech companies, the caregiver organizations, anyone with a channel, the patients that needs to tell them these capabilities exist, to tell them to show up with their QR code. We need the patients to ask their doctors, we need the doctors to respond, and we all have to be there when the doctors ask to support so that they can do that. Next up, prior authorization work group. It's live, it's executing. This is something I care very passionately about. Again, immediate family member delayed months over prior authorization because of failed records transfers. We have to do better. We have called on the insurers to do better. We've called on the providers to do better. We stand ready with regulation should it be necessary, but we hope just as this grand convening has yielded such fruit in extraordinary time frames, far beyond what was accomplished in the prior decade, that the same will happen with prior authorization. Price transparency, diagnostic imaging, all in that same roadmap. So let me conclude with 2 notes. First, I'll reiterate again, thank you for being here, for showing up, for doing the work, for caring enough to put in the tireless hours. We see you, and we are immensely grateful. Second, let me please implore you to keep going. The work is not done. And when it is done, success will be that nobody notices, because it will be the standard, it will be the default. But those who love us will know, and we will know that we were there and we did a great thing. So with that, I thank you for being here. It's now my pleasure to introduce someone who needs no introduction, but he deserves one, our tireless leader of CMS by day, our fearless fraud fighter by night. He is the man who had the vision alongside Amy Gleason and so many others to launch this health tech ecosystem last year, understanding that real-time data flowing interoperability would be the single most deflationary and single most access and quality improving thing that we could possibly do, and threw all of his weight behind it. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Mehmet Oz. Slay it.
Chris Klemp, spectacular human being who's played such an important role culturally within the organization, making sure the glue to these disparate pieces hold together. As some of you may realize, the most important thing that we do in this agency, in general in government, is hire the smartest people out there and make sure they don't kill each other. And so part of the reason you're in here and are being meek, which means specifically putting your swords away so you can talk with each other and build a better future, is because you've bought into that belief system, which Secretary Kennedy has crafted at HHS. And I want to give Bobby credit for being an avatar for this movement. The Make America Healthy Again movement really is the forebearer of much of what we're talking about today. By being willing to challenge the status quo and by allowing Americans to be heard. Typically, a mom who says it's not as easy to take care of my kids as I think it was for my mom to take care of me, those are realities that I think have been appreciated by enough Americans that we don't have the choice. Not moving forward is a decision, and it's the wrong decision, and you're here because you believe in that as well. The health tech ecosystem, the growth, the accomplishments that you've achieved over this first year, stunning. The president is going to put a Truth Social post out, hopefully during this session. It's going to celebrate the fact that when all this sort of came together at the White House event, the East Room, a year ago exactly, it was a hope that we would be able to achieve. At the time, we had 60 companies. Amy Gleason tirelessly with her team has pulled together now 800 companies. But more importantly, as Chris highlighted, went from 5% of people being able to easily appreciate and achieve their goal of seeing their medical records and sharing it with the person they felt might help them. That number now is over 50% and moving quickly in the right direction. And insurgents, like Secretary Kennedy, are effective because they ask a different question than many ask. The question that Secretary Kennedy asks is why? Why do we do it this way? Why not do it in other ways? As a surgeon, I'll tell you that some of the most brilliant moments of my career was when a medical student asked me that question, and it forced me to rethink something I thought we had right because my professor taught it to me that way when I was in that student's shoes. But these questions revolutionize industries. And I want to think a little bit about examples of that. Without too much detail, banking. I mean, literally, the word bricks and mortar usually appealed to the bank branch you went to. And how many of you remember that you couldn't go to the same bank at a different branch? It had to be your personal branch you went to make a deposit or withdrawal. Yes, many of us are remembering those days, but not with fondness. And finally, we got the same banks to at least agree their branches could talk to each other. Now, most of us don't have to go to a branch for a reason that should have happened in healthcare many years ago. And how many of you took a ride share to get here today? Uber, Lyft? Yeah. Pretty stunning, isn't it? Let's go back a little bit and talk a little about why that happened and how it changed transportation. So I practiced medicine in New York City, so I knew a fair amount about cabs, which is how we would get around. Now, I don't know how many of you know this, but the price for a medallion that a cab would have to legally drive you around, John Doerr's nodding his head, yes, but there's many others who know this, that was In 2013, when we reached this peak, $1 million for the medallion. A piece of metal stamped to the front hood of your car that will give you part of a monopoly, a share of a monopoly to drive people around the city streets. Now, that ability for a monopoly to exist was created in 1937 by the Haas Law. No sensible person would have thought that made sense even several decades later, much less 100 years later. The gatekeepers of the taxi industry had a very good reason to have those medallions, like so many do in the healthcare ecosystem, which I've learned if there's a narrowing of it, if there's a gate, it's because someone's collecting a toll, something you all know very well, something we're not tolerating anymore. And because of the belief that we can do things differently, there's been a surge now and an embrace of the fact that insurgents and innovators, like the ones behind Uber and Lyft, are allowed to practice their art form. But listen to this reality. They didn't change the rules legally. They just changed the rules. There was no need to go to city council and change the taxi industry and the medallions and get into the Haas Law from 1937. The rideshare companies didn't have to make new rules. They didn't have to even try to make new rules. They had a better answer, and the better answer worked. And by doing that at scale, which they've been able to achieve, and others are effectively joining them, it's de facto deregulation of the taxi sector, which is why most of you did. How many of you took yellow cab here today? Not one. Oh my gosh. I say 80% of you took a ride share, not one took a cab, and this is reflective again of an industry that has been changed. Now we have our own version of medallions in healthcare, right? Data locks. And not the kind of data locks like I lock the data in for my clinical trial, I've got all the answers we're submitting to the FDA. It's the data locks that exist when hospitals and EHRs and health plans are able to box in and hold patient records hostage in a system that they're protecting as dearly as these medallions represented profits to the taxi industry for many years. Now, when I practiced cardiac surgery, I was part of that system. Patient calls me for information. They had a test, for example. They had to come see me, wait in my office to get the results. Maybe I'd call them if it was a simple test and give them the answers. If they wanted a copy of that test, weeks could go by, and often what I would send them wasn't easily discernible by another technology in a different hospital. Why? Because that way the patient would have to stay in my hospital, wouldn't go elsewhere. Same vice versa. And lots of things happened at the time. But what did happen, at least in my specialty, is that we began to use technology in ways that were seen as cutting edge, controversial, but effective. And I was thinking to myself, what's the best metaphor I could get for you guys today that might actually drive home how important what you do is? The money is out there. We estimate billions of dollars of savings from the Kill the Clipboard tools that you guys are building. But there's nothing the same as seeing a human being alive now who wouldn't have been, except for the fact that they benefited from health technology. And because the digital technology we're talking about today are so different from what was cutting edge decades ago, I thought I'd bring someone to talk to you for just a minute as a surprise guest. Corey Boglarski, come on up. I would like Corey to share his story with you. This is the first time I met Corey, by the way. It was just recently.
Hi, everybody. Well, this was 30 years ago, and Dr. Oz performed a left ventricular assist device, a mechanical heart, which he was pioneering the technology back then. And then a little while after, I was able to get a heart transplant thanks to the technology. And all I can say is for everybody is that, keep pursuing technology, and so we can really make a difference and shoot for the stars. And thanks for Dr. Oz saving my life and everything.
Don't say that part. That's the part you're not supposed to say.
Also another miracle that happened was because of technology and my heart transplant, my family's here today. So
Bethany.
yeah, Bethany, Charlie, and Oliver. You guys want to stand up?
So step forward. So Corey's, they're shy in the back there, but I'm emphasizing this because the real value of what you're doing.
They're right over there.
Okay. They are standing over there. The real value is measured in our aspiration, as all species has always had, to build big, to shoot for the stars, to do things most thought wasn't possible. And when Corey survived, and he was the youngest LVAD patient at the time, survived that operation, he just serendipitously was in to visit me today. But I thought there's no better way for you to understand the stakes that we have at play. When Corey got a mechanical heart, it was called the Dracula of technology, a losing, money-sucking waste of time that could not possibly work. When he got a mechanical heart and did what a teenager does, he was 16 at the time, he went snowboarding and sent me a picture of him on his snowboard. But that it was reflective of the culture shift that began to happen. We're experiencing the same thing, but instead of mechanical hearts and newfangled medical devices, we're using technology in as powerful a way. There's going to be millions of Cory Boglarskis alive because of the work that you're doing. And the success that he represents to American society can be actually quantitated financially. One extra year of work, one extra year of productive life in America working in a business is worth $1 trillion to this economy. But nothing is the same as having a family that wouldn't have been there except for the work that was done by the pioneers in these technologies. Corey, thank you.
Thank you.
So let me just speak a tiny bit to the companies that are here. 800 of you obviously joined: OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Amazon, every major tech company, frankly. Not a company I have heard of that wasn't listed amongst those 800 tech companies. All with health, every company with health ambition: Microsoft, Samsung, CBS, Gnome, ZocDoc, who we're building stuff out with. In fact, I saw a wonderful demo from Apple last week. I mean, I see every company coming in because they see the vision that we have. And there's a fine line between vision and hallucination, right? Others have to see it to be real, for it to be a vision. And I'm optimistic that others are going to keep making changes that will adjust what these companies have been able to offer us already. A lot of work was done in this. The EHRs participated, the payers, the providers, networks, patients, and of course, friends of the ecosystem who just chipped in, nameless but desirous altruistic individuals to make a difference. I also want to thank the standards community, such as the broader FHIR community, and the tech experts across the health ecosystem that have spent hours working carefully to make sure the tech ecosystem actually function at high speed. Poured your heart and soul into these endeavors. I want to give a special shout out to the AMA because they stepped up to support prior authorization reform through the new SNOMED, the CPT mapping initiative. This makes these maps available at no cost. And that's the easiest way to do a government contract, is do it at no cost. But the AMA is removing as well key barriers to implementation and helping EHRs and payers translate between clinical documentation and the administrative coding that and using this as a common language. That's the kind of advance that many of you have been pushing for in your own worlds. So we're here to celebrate you, the insurgents, usher in a revolution in healthcare, allow folks to do that unbelievable work, and everyone in this room deserves this credit, to make sure that data belongs where the person who owns it wants it, in their hands. Patients should own their data. They paid for it one way or the other, and we're going to make sure that happens. Lots of innovations, apps, cool tools are already out there, much of that you'll hear about today. We are all grateful for your participation, and in order to commemorate this, I'd like to ask Secretary Kennedy, Chris Klump, the rest of the team that's going to be speaking this morning, come up in front here. If I can turn down those backlights so we can actually see the audience. We're going to get a team photo so everyone here is able to commemorate this important date and the amazing reality that what you can do in 1 year, something we never thought possible, is already in our hands. So come on out, guys, and we'll get the photographer up here. We can get Tom Kane and right in front here. And then we're going to get our photographer up here. Oh, look at this. It's going to work like clockwork. No, it's better if they sit. She's such a prima donna, she won't come up unless I introduce her. All right, next up, it's Amy Gleason. Gleason.
Love Dr. Oz's humor most of the time. Okay, so I want to start today with a story about a patient. I'm sure you're all shocked. A woman with cancer was traveling on vacation when she developed heart problems and ended up in the emergency room far from her home. The ER doctors needed her history and her medication list before they could treat her safely, and they could not reach her oncologist after hours. A year ago, that story ends with an admission to the hospital. Hours of phone tag, a hospital bed, and maybe worse. Instead, just a few weeks ago, she opened an app on her phone. The ER doctor scanned her QR code and saw everything, her treatments, her labs, her cancer meds, all of it, formatted in a way that the doctor could use it. And he was able to make a safe decision in minutes, and she went home that day. This story was told in our Slack community, and I thank you all for participating in that. And that community is exactly where I want to start today. Because a few weeks ago, I was reflecting back on the last year as we prepared for this event, and I asked a question there: what made this effort different? And the response on Slack and over email was impressive. I got a lot of notes from people. And I'll admit, I thought I knew what you would all say. Fire APIs and collaboration, specs, getting people together, all the heated conversations we've had. And you mentioned those, but they weren't first. First, you talked about patient and caregivers having a real seat at the table in the gritty technical conversations, not just on paper. You talked about every working group starting and ending with the same question: how does this make things better for patients? You talked about the door being open to anyone willing to pledge and show up, no membership fee required. And one of you did note that sometimes there are too many people in the tent. That's fair, but we'll be getting a bigger tent. And you talked about doing the work instead of scheduling the next meeting about doing the work. So reading those responses, I realized that what felt different wasn't the technology. It was the mindset. We didn't start by asking, what should we build? We started by asking, what problem are we trying to solve, and who are we trying to solve it for? That is product thinking. Start with the person and the problem, and the rest follows. That mindset is exactly why CMS just created a new office called the Office of Health Technology and Products, otherwise known as OHTP. Patients don't experience healthcare through our org chart. Neither do providers or developers. The hardest problems cut across every program we have. And OHTP works along these programs, alongside them on the challenges that they share, helping turn projects into products. And I'm honored to be serving as Deputy Administrator and Chief Product Officer for that group. And that is why today is a celebration. You spent a year doing the unglamorous work. Records that actually flow, identity that you can trust, networks that answer when a patient calls, apps a Medicare beneficiary can open today, not someday. None of it is flashy on its own, but together it is a foundation. This afternoon, we celebrate the organizations that carried the work all the way to general availability. Not just to testing, not just to see if you can make it work with 2 people, but all the way live in production for patients and providers. And here is the best part of a foundation. You get to build on top of it. So today we are not just marking year 1, we're launching year 2. New pledges, new problems, ending the runaround that patients face every single day. Same community, same playbook, new challenges. Now, if you've heard me speak before, you know that I often open with my daughter Morgan. But today I saved her for last. And this is why. Her story got shorter. It used to take me 5 minutes to explain all the binders we had to use, the 16 years of turmoil, all the medications, and repeating her history over and over again to every new doctor. But this year's update is different. Last Friday, just a few days ago, she went to NIH for her visit that she goes every few years. Before the visit, she sent them her QR code and shared her medical record straight from her phone. They were able to take it at NIH, so I don't think there's any excuse for all the providers out there. The physician walked in already knowing her history, and they spent the visit discussing the future instead of reconstructing the past. The AI summary that came with her medical records she shared surfaced an antibody result from years before, and that changed the conversation and the treatment options that were available to her. She's now starting a new medication, and it needs a prior authorization. How fitting. And her doctor was so surprised because from her records, they had all the details needed to be able to submit the failed meds she'd had to justify the prior authorization. They said that previously would have taken them hours and a lot of work, but now it was at their fingertips. She has a digital personal health app, a personal health coach that she's been using, and that had organized her follow-ups by the time we got to the parking lot. And the best part is this Friday, when she goes to see her local doctor in Nashville, her care is already connected because that doctor will have all of the information from the NIH visit ahead of time. And she will walk in confident. Dr. Oz talked about Uber earlier today, and his point was about gatekeepers, but mine is about the rider. Every single one of us grew up with a single rule: never get in a car with a stranger. But now, we tap a button, a stranger pulls up, and we get right in that car. Honestly, we're actually a little irritated when it says it'll take 4 minutes for them to arrive. But that's what happens when a system earns your trust. The unthinkable becomes routine, and that is where healthcare is headed. Morgan used her QR code now twice at 2 different visits at 2 different doctors. And the first time was such a novelty, we recorded a video of her showing her QR code and them scanning it. We were all excited. The second time, we held her breath. Would it work again? And it did. NIH took it. And pretty soon, she won't accept anything else. Sharing her record will be just how she rolls, just like tapping her phone and getting an Uber. But Uber didn't win because the app worked. It won because everyone knew about it and everyone came to trust it. That's our job in year 2, adoption. Patients who know they can get their medical record and share it. Patients that know they can have personalized support 24 hours a day in a digital health coach. Providers that know what to do when a patient shows up with these tools. Until this stops being impressive and becomes how healthcare works, that's when we'll know that we really made it happen. Morgan's story got shorter because the system finally got better, and that's what progress looks like. But now we need to make that happen for every patient. Also, I always have to do a shameless plug here because we are hiring. As Dr. Oz said, we have a lot of work to do, especially in our new office. So if you've ever been somebody that said, I wish the government delivered products differently, or you've said, gosh, I really wish I could solve hard healthcare problems for every American, come find us or one of my team after this session. A year ago, this was a vision. You showed up over and over and made it a movement. Thank you so much for that. I can't wait to see what we do in year 2. Everything I just described depends on something that patients never see. Thousands of systems agreeing on how to talk to each other. That's the work our next speaker leads every day. He has been an incredible colleague over the last year, and I am thankful he is our close partner on this work. Please welcome our National Coordinator for Health IT, Tom Keene.
Good afternoon. It's an honor to be here to mark the first anniversary of the CMS Health Tech ecosystem. And I looked it up. The traditional gift for a first anniversary celebration is paper. Paper. Which felt a little bit like a trap, given that most of us in this room have spent our entire careers trying to get paper out of healthcare. So I brought these remarks instead. You're welcome. A year ago, this initiative started with a simple premise, that the federal government's greatest power isn't always the power to regulate. It's the power to convene. And convening, done well, has the potential to produce better, faster results than rulemaking. That's what the health tech ecosystem has proven in this last year. Above all, it gave participants to sit down with people they normally wouldn't. Payers talking with app developers, health systems talking to networks, patient advocates in the room with the engineers who build the pipes. And when you get those conversations going, 3 things happen. You find the frictions, you find the common interests, and you find the opportunities. So what has come out of it? Let's look at what's happened in the first 12 months. We've seen real use case expansion. Payers are now interacting with patients, providers, and health tech companies in ways that simply didn't exist a year ago, ways that put patients at the center and put their data to work for them. We've seen widespread broadening of the individual access services that TEFCA began building out. So today, a patient can serve up their entire medical record to a doctor with a simple, smart health link. It took the industry 30 years to get from the fax machine to that sentence, so I intend to savor saying it. Think about what this means for a family walking into a new specialist's office or an emergency department with everything that matters in their hand. That is real progress, and it holds a lesson worth saying out loud. No one organization can do this alone. Not ONC, not CMS, not any single payer, network, or vendor. It takes all of us. That's also why I want to be clear about how this work fits together, because the health tech ecosystem and ONC are not running parallel races. We are running one race on complementary legs. CMS has cultivated innovation that can be proven in the real world first and then adopted into rulemaking. ONC has advanced TEFCA, building the trusted exchange fabric that makes secure nationwide data sharing possible, and the health tech ecosystem has built the use cases and participation riding on top of that fabric. The foundation and the building. You need both. And here's ONC's commitment going forward. We will align our certification requirements, our information blocking guidance, and our TEFCA governance with what the ecosystem has proven works. When the pledges made here demonstrate what good looks like, our policy framework will reflect that. And we will continue to enforce the information blocking regulation using a whole-of-government approach to see to it that the Innovation Secretary Kennedy, Dr. Oz, and Amy Gleason, and all of you have built will continue to mature as information flows the way it should. Let's spend one moment talking about a pledge that was announced in May because it shows exactly how this model works. Electronic prior authorization. To make electronic prior authorization real, we needed an endpoint directory. Check. CMS produced it. We needed a SNOMED to CPT crosswalk. Check. The AMA produced it and is licensing it for free. For free. Sit with that for a second. I'm a doctor. I don't do anything for free. People ask me, what should I do about this headache? And I try and send them a bill. But the EHRA, AHIP, and AMA are working together to produce this crosswalk and to license it to the public forever for free. We can't thank them all enough for the partnership, and it shows what the partnership under the leadership of CMS has been able to achieve. We needed testing tools. Check. CMS financed them and ONC built them. And now CMS is convening the players to make these transactions work in the real world. Check. That's 4 checks. Not as many as you might see in the first few minutes of a hockey game, but a lot more than you would generally see in government action. And it's a testament to the work that my colleagues have done and that all of you have done. Everyone has been a great partner in this effort to help the patient, to help providers, and to save money. That is how you take the nearly $2 billion in administrative waste that prior authorization drains from the system every single year, not with a mandate and a hope, but with the infrastructure, the standards, the tools, and the people all lined up and moving together. We are well on our way. So today is a day to celebrate the work that's been done and to thank every one of you for being a part of it. What's been accomplished in a single year would have taken longer through other paths. Under the leadership of Secretary Kennedy, Chris Klomp, Dr. Oz, and Amy Gleason, we are making great things happen, and we will keep making them happen together in the years ahead. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague and occasional baseball partner, Abe Sutton.
I'm just honored to be introduced by my baseball prowess. That is, I'll confess, not the typical way I've been introduced, going back to, Little League era, when I have to admit I was mostly the kid sitting on the bench. It is great to be with you all today, and I wanted to take a couple of minutes to speak about the access model. And with this audience, the truth is that the parameters of the model, what we focus on, the fact that we are now soft launch and some companies are enrolling patients in, that's all information everyone here knows. But I thought it might be interesting to take a step back and share the story of one of the patients who inspired us on the journey to create access. And I'm speaking about a patient called Patricia Ferguson. Patricia is somebody served by the Medicare program who is served by a provider participating in one of our current models, the ACO REACH model. And Patricia has diabetes. She's in her 70s, she's a retiree. She loves chocolate, but she also needs to manage her diabetes. And through the access model, we will have a support system in place for patients like Patricia going forward. But through REACH, at the time, her doctor wanted to intervene and give her support between office visits, give her the way that she could feel comfortable knowing when she can nibble and when she should not. And the different tools and technologies that were employed there are the approach to her care is something that we will now see available to more patients through the cardio-kidney metabolic health track of access. The approach that people in this room and others are taking to meet patients where they are, meet people and treat them as people, is something that we all believe in. It's something that the health tech ecosystem is about. If you look at the work that my colleague Amy and the team have done to ensure that information on people's data can be available so you can serve and customize as you're serving people. And it's also the heart of what access requires, so that providers can know what is going on in the time between office visits, and so that the provider who's stepping in to give technology supports to patients can also have that information, have it flow seamlessly into a patient's record. This is transformational. The whole approach of information being free and following the patient is a change. And the whole approach to pay for this care and recognize it with a structure is going to incentivize the revolution that we need to serve people and meet them where they are. If we look at what has gone on between the work of ONC, the work of our team at CMS, the work of this entire department, we've created the ability to innovate and access the information you need to drive that innovation. We've created the ability to go and reimburse for that innovation. And together, that is a very powerful transformation. It's why I'm excited to be 1 year in on the health tech ecosystem and the journey we're on together, and I'm excited for today's program. And so with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Deputy Administrator Stephanie Carlton.
Good afternoon. We at CMS believe that every American patient deserves a clinical AI tool that's safe, trusted, and can be ready as a first-line option to go when you have questions about your care. Let me just say this. Amy knows how to throw a party, and that vision I just articulated is really contagious and has come and really stemmed out of the work she's led for the last year and a half with us at CMS. As a fellow registered nurse, I got to join that party a couple months ago, and we stepped back and spent a lot of time as a team reflecting on the last year and a half. What have we accomplished together? What do we want to do in the time that we have left in government? We have a lot of things to be proud of. You've heard from different colleagues that have led those initiatives. Obviously, making health tech great again, the health tech ecosystem, trusted networks, many of the things that Amy and her team have spent countless hours on over the last year. You heard from Abe Sutton, which he led really a paradigm-shifting model to not just pay for technology because it's cool, but to pay for technology because it works and we believe it can drive affordability in healthcare. These are things our team is really proud of, and as we step back, there are a lot of things the administration has done across the board. We have David Sachs, who led a framework for American leadership in artificial intelligence and said it's in a position of this administration for federal leadership on this and federal preemption so that we foster innovation in what AI can do to improve people's lives. So a lot to be proud of, but we also step back to see what else do we need to do to make this vision of clinical AI a real a reality for American patients. And there's a number of things we focused on towards that effort. The first is why we're here today. You can't scale a clinical AI solution unless you have trusted data exchange. Again, Amy and her team worked tirelessly on that. I've started to partner with Amy on the policy and regulatory pieces of that. So there's 3 other pieces we're focused on together. The second is really around building trust. We know that clinical AI can change patients' lives for the better, improve health outcomes, drive affordability, but we also know there's a lot of scary things about it that patients are wondering about. About 60% of patients express some skepticism when they're seeing hallucinations or scary things in the news, and they're asking real questions about it. Only 30% of patients really trust AI companies with their personal medical information, and we can do a lot better. But the good news is, once patients experience what AI can do for them, those numbers kind of invert themselves. You actually got 67% of patients, once they've tried an AI tool, believe that that can actually drive affordability, lower their healthcare costs, and can completely change the way they experience the healthcare system. That's transformative. And we know we need to double down and build patient trust, and we need an approach that realizes that vision and approaches it in a really responsible way. The third area that we're focused on is fostering permanent market access. Again, we have a lot of things to be proud of. It's not just the model that Abe and his team led in access, but it's also setting the standard for collaboration that Abe and his team did with the FDA, where they did a parallel launch of the Tempo model with the access model that represented an unprecedented level of collaboration on clinical AI. We have a lot more we can do on that as we think about creating permanent and fostering permanent market access for clinical AI. I'll get to introduce a friend of mine who'll go deeper on that in just a moment, but we believe that that partnership is really critical to this, and there are pathways to unlock federal preemption so that there's consistency and clarity when it comes to the potential of these kinds of AI-enabled devices. The fourth area is what we focus on solely at CMS. That's the payment side of things. Again, I think the thing that was special about the access model that Abe's team led was that it was deflationary by design. We only pay for AI if it is improving, and we can measure the improvement in health outcomes. That's a principle that we hold dearly at CMS, and we think about in every approach that we take to payment models. And we're now taking a whole of agency approach to thinking about where does it make sense for clinical AI, where is it safe and effective, where can it improve patients' lives, and where can we build models that are consistent with that principle that will pay for outcomes, and we're going to pay for accountability when it is we can measure those changes. So we're looking at things like what's the appropriate role in primary care, what's the appropriate role in different kinds of accountable care organizations, what would it look like to have clinical AI more involved in the delivery of insurance products that are on the market, and how can those really deliver better affordability? All of these things we are focused on as a team at CMS, and as a team much more broadly. It's fun to see a friend like Chris Klump get nominated to be Deputy Secretary here, and what that's also marked is a new level of collaboration across HHS. All of us are friends. We talk to Tom Keene a lot at ONC. I talk with our colleagues across HHS. We have Arta Kara, who is a CMS alum, now coordinating our clinical AI agenda for HHS. And I get to introduce a new friend of mine who leads the Center for Devices and Radiological Health at FDA, and she's become a friend as we've collaborated on clinical AI and thinking about what can FDA do, what can CMS do, and how can we develop solutions faster together. So with that, I'm very excited to introduce my friend, Dr. Michelle Tarver.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's really an honor to be here with you today. And for everyone who's in the audience who's looking side to side and groaning and wondering why is FDA in the room, I rest assured we're not here to regulate you. We're really here just to talk about collaboration. I'm the director of the Center for Devices and Radiological Health, and part of our mission is to protect and promote the health and well-being of all people who live in the United States who are looking to meet unmet needs and address their health condition with medical devices. And in order for us to be successful in accomplishing that mission, it requires three things. It requires that we remain patient-centered, that we are evidence-driven, and that we foster transparency and innovation. And the ways in which we do that is some of what you heard about earlier today, which is working collaboratively across the entire agency and other parts of government. One of the things that I wanted to focus on, though, is that there is really an important part about technology. Technology, as all of you well know, has the opportunity to change how people experience care. I'm an eye provider. I care for folks who have really rare eye conditions, and I can't tell you the number of patients who come before me on a long diagnostic odyssey without paper, without information, and saying, please help me. What you all have been doing has helped to empower the patient so that when they come to me, they have their story well organized, they have their data organized, and we can get to an answer that helps to improve their healthcare outcomes. That's how care is supposed to be delivered. That's how care is supposed to be experienced. And one of the important parts that I serve in this whole continuum is that information alone is not enough. The technology and the integration of that information with the devices that may be used in their care is critically important. That's why we're all standing here together. It's a collective responsibility that we all share. Now, you heard a little bit about the TEMPO program. The TEMPO program and the pilot program is really a unique approach. It's understanding that there are certain health conditions and certain types of devices that are low risk. Can we collect that information using rural data sources in partnership with our colleagues at CMS, and then use that to make a marketing decision? We are exercising enforcement discretion for some of those technologies while they are collecting the data in use as part of the Access program. This is never been done before. It's a novel approach. And the reason why it's been able to come online, we just announced our first participant last week, was because of the partnership that we've built with our colleagues across the department. The other thing that I'd like to also mention is that we're also here because we are a key element to trust, we're a key element of evidence, and a key arbitrator of that evidence as it informs healthcare. We've heard from so many patients the importance of FDA taking a look, making sure that it's safe and that it's effective, and that's what we're here for. We've also heard from innovators, make sure the burden is not too high, and that's what we're striving to do. It is through this collective partnership and working together across government that we're able to accomplish things like TEMPO. It's an example of what whole of government can do when we partner together. I think the message is quite clear that the work that you all are doing, and congratulations on the one-year anniversary, as well as the ongoing commitment to interoperability and improving patient outcomes will allow all of us to accomplish the goal that we're all seeking to meet, improving the health of the nation, one software at a time, one technology at a time, one patient at a time, but making sure that everybody has what they need to live and receive their best health. Thank you.
My iPad doesn't know who I am with the veil. So you may be seated. Before we celebrate, there's one piece of business we have to attend to. Last July, we told you that the clipboard's days were numbered and that we'd be gathering today to lay it to rest. So thank you all for coming. And now, to preside over the service, Mr. Zach Jiwa.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to remember the clipboard, faithful companion of waiting rooms everywhere. It is survived by the fax machine, the pager, and a 3-ring binder in a records room in Toledo that no one has opened since 2011.
Oh, and Zach, I just want you to know that we invited them. We invited the fax machine and the pager, and they all want you to know that they're very sorry we couldn't make it. We could not get off work.
The clipboard asks the same question over and over and over again.
But you know, Zach, it's the trust that you establish. You could trust when you gave a piece of paper to a clipboard, it would end up on another clipboard.
It never met a form it didn't like. It believed every patient enjoyed writing their name, address, insurance, medications, allergies, and medical history before every appointment. But the clipboard was never really the problem. It never wanted to hurt anybody. It was just a board. We were the ones who kept handing it to people. Where's Tom King?
Where's Tom?
Where's Tom?
Oh, it's me? As a physician, I can tell you, you can only ask a patient so many times what their medications are and what medications they're on before they start to question your education.
The real problem was that patients became the integration layer for our healthcare system. They carried records, repeated their history, retold their story, not because they wanted to, but because the system gave them no other choice.
So what's changed?
Standards. Standards aren't exactly known for bringing down the house. They don't get you invited to parties, but they are surprisingly useful when you want one computer to talk to another computer.
Wait, that was your contribution?
Yes, you're welcome.
Anyone else?
Well, before we could share information, we actually had to make sure it was you. Turns out that, hello, I'm Bob, for real, is not a security strategy.
Anyone else?
Someone had to bring people together. It's amazing what you can do when you collaborate and actually talk to people to try to develop a solution. Oh, if only we tried sooner.
This is a funeral, Fred.
Somebody had to convince EHRs that information coming from patients isn't something to be afraid of, and that QR codes aren't just restaurant menus. I'm hungry.
Anyone else have anything to add?
Well, we built apps for patients, and after listening to all the debate, we decided to go back to first principles. We designed for the patient.
So who killed the clipboard?
Wasn't standards.
Wasn't identity.
Wasn't networks, not EHRs.
It wasn't apps, not CMS.
Nobody killed the clipboard. All of us had to do it together.
So it's over?
I don't remember clearing, authorizing, or approving clipboard.
Oh, this is you. It's the wrong one. Go.
So it's not over yet. Here's the truth about the clipboard. It isn't fully dead. If patients don't know they can share their record and providers don't know what to do with the QR code, this thing will climb right out of the casket. Our job now is to make the new way the norm. Every patient carrying their own data with a digital health coach in their pocket, sharing their record anywhere with a tap. Not a novelty, just how healthcare works. Because if we don't make it the norm, the clipboard will revive itself.
So this
I think we should take a moment to place our flower on the clipboard and set it to rest.
Okay. So this isn't really a funeral. It's a thank you to the providers, the payers, the technology companies, the standards organizations, the government agencies, the patient advocates who chose to work together instead of separately. Because no one organization could have done this alone. But together, we've shown what's possible. So now let's recognize all the people that made this happen. Go big or go home. That's our motto here. All right, we had to have a little fun today. So the clipboard is at rest. You can. So now let's meet the people responsible. So today we celebrate all of the organizations that have reached general availability. Back in April, we celebrated all the ones that took the first step and showed progress. But GA is much harder. It means an organization has met the full technical, operation, and privacy requirements to participate in the CMS health tech ecosystem at production. I'm so excited to congratulate everyone who has cleared that bar. But there are also many organizations close to reaching that goal, and new organizations that just pledged us last week. So we want to make sure that there's a way to communicate our ongoing additions and progress as we go forward. So 3 quick things. So first of all, we have announced a showcase. So since our April event, we sat through a lot of demos. And they were really amazing, but it was also very, very long to sit through. And so we decided to stand up our initial showcase. So all of the ecosystem companies, as you hit production, you are able to submit a video, and we will host it on our showcase that will show how you're meeting the pledge. This is not just for you to be proud and show what you're doing, because that's important, but it's also to help patients and providers be able to see examples and really understand what this movement is about. I've learned over the last year that what I think is very clear, what we're building, a lot of people don't quite understand it. And so this allows people to see something and really understand it. The next thing is the Medicare app library, which we launched a few apps on that in the April timeframe, the ones that were really ahead. But now we're adding more apps into this library. As more get certified, we'll be continually adding this. And this process can take a bit for a company, even once they meet the requirements. And honestly, it also takes a while for us to get through the process of reviewing them and getting them on the site. So we will try to keep up with all of you, but we appreciate your patience. And then the last piece is we've heard over and over that if patients show up in an office with a QR code and the provider doesn't know what to do with it, then it can make the patient feel like they didn't get to share their information, and they can actually be more discouraged than helped. So we wanted to stand up a site that helps providers know how they can accept the QR code. So this tells you by EHR, and this is provided by the EHR companies, how today you can go and access the QR code, and it will be connected to your EHR. We also have several companies that have put up open source solutions so that if your EHR doesn't yet support this, then you can also use one of those solutions and connect it straight to your EHR. So thank you very much for those that did that as well. So now for the fun part. So once your organization's name is called, please stand and remain standing for recognition. Please hold clapping until the very end. I know it will be hard, but let's try. So before any company names, I want to start with the most important group in this room. To every patient and caregiver who pledged tested, gave feedback, and kept us honest from a patient perspective. Please stand. Oh, okay. And then one more before we get to the companies. Actually, two more. The first, our two federal agencies recently joined our work, the Department of Veteran Affairs and the Social Security Administration. Please stand. Oh, sorry, and patients, please remain standing. Everybody remain standing. Veteran Affairs and Social Security. Awesome. Okay, one other group to recognize are the work group leads. So all of the work group leads that led these weekly painful meetings where we've been rolling the big snowball up the hill and driving progress, please stand. And I am now going to hand it to my colleague Alberto. And I wanted to just give one moment. A year ago, it was really the three of us. Alberto, Arda, and I staring at a whiteboard, dreaming about how could we actually make this happen. And we wondered a lot, like, will this work? Can we get it to happen? And look at all of you and how much progress has made. But I thought it was only appropriate that the OG three, Amy, Alberto, and Arda team, were the ones to celebrate the first year of pledges. So I'm going to hand it off to Alberto to kick that off.
Awesome, thank you. Let's recognize the networks. There we go. So networks are a critical part and backbone of the health tech ecosystem. They act as the highway for data to flow and interconnect. General availability designation is verified by CMS and signals to patients, providers, and app developers that an organization is ready to exchange data reliably and safely. So please, the following organizations stand up to recognize your achievement into general availability. Alabama One Health Record, and please remain standing. Arcadia Solutions, BeWell Connected Health, Centauri Health Solutions, Commonwealth Health Alliance, Consus, CRISP Church Services, eHealth Exchange, EMR Direct, Epic, Gainwell Technologies, Innovator, Intera Health, InterSystems, Node2, Konza Health, Med Allies, NetSmart, Particle Health, and Synchronous. And now, let's recognize the EHR vendors. Keep standing, please. EHR vendors are the platform layer. When an EHR achieves general availability, every provider on that platform has the technical capability to participate in the ecosystem, whether or not they have turned it on yet. General availability for an EHR means that FHIR is at the forefront of all transactions and meeting requirements, that Smart Health Link's implementation is ready to go, the patient matching logic meets the 35 combination floor, and the query response infrastructure is production ready for all purposes of use. These are the systems that carry the data for the majority of American hospitals and clinics. Will the following EHRs please stand up? Altera Digital Health, Amazon One Medical, Athena Health, eClinical Works, Epic, Meditech, MedPlum, and Parker Health. Now I'll hand it back to Amy.
So the providers that we're recognizing today did something that sounds simple, but has never been easy. They made their patient records available, not just accessible through the front desk or a FHIR endpoint that nobody can find. They made it actually receivable by a patient in their app and accepting it from the patient at the front desk so they could use that QR code. While there are thousands of providers who meet the pledge requirements through the work of their EHRs and their networks, There are only a few provider groups who have dedicated time, week after week after week, showing up at these calls and participating by testing and socializing their availability with their patients. These are the organizations that did not wait. So when I call your name, please stand up. The AMA Medical Group, Amazon One Medical, Arrow Health Family Health Centers, Bon Secours Mercy Health, Cleveland Clinic, DaVita, Freighter Theta Care, Hancock Health, Jefferson Health, Ozarks Healthcare, Providence, and Tennessee Oncology. The next group is payers. Payers hold some of the most complete longitudinal records that exist for any patient. Claims that go back years, benefits, prior authorization history to avoid that in the future, prescriptions. General availability means that data is flowing. When a patient queries through a CMS-aligned network, the payer answers, and at that moment when it's needed. The recognized payers are Aetna, Alabama Medicaid Agency through Alabama One, Clover Health, Devoted Health, Gainwell, Humana, the Cigna Group, United Health Group, and Medicare. So I'm going to hand it over to Arda, who's going to talk about the apps.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Great to be back. It's good to be back in a tie, but this makes it worth it. Okay, well, we talked about infrastructure so far. This is the part of the iceberg that's under the water that actually supports everything above. That's the foundation for everything looking forward. And it's really the patient-facing apps is where the rubber meets the road. That's where a real person gets real value in the real world around the clock. So there are three for anyone that hasn't seen this so far, unlikely. But there were three things that we wanted to start with. One, can you please help me gather all my records, wherever they may sit, as long as I can prove that I am, who I say I am, then allow me to, in my personal vault, gather all my records from all the specialists, partialists, as someone calls it, and so I can have a whole person, the big picture for myself. And then, if you may, can you please let me use that big picture for the next time I check into a doctor's visit? It could be a brick and mortar, so that's what Kill the Clipboard is about. It's a QR code or a tap, and with that, the whole picture is available so that you can base any conversation on that whole thing. But then again, most of the time, 99% of the time, we're not in the doctor's office. So that's the second and third category we talk about. What if I want to manage my metabolic health? That's the driver of so much of the pain and suffering and disease in our nation. So that is the obesity and diabetes management workflow. And then finally, and this was a little bit open-ended last time we talked about this, but what if I want to tie that big picture to a more generalized AI experience? And what if, to the extent that I'm comfortable with it, I can offer my full history, but then have this experience consider the latest research out there, all the pathways, all the interventions available to me, clinical or lifestyle, for then to help me with my next worry, next symptom, next aberrational lab results. So that's conversational AI. So with that, let's switch to all our folks that cross the finish line for patient-facing apps. There are many that you've seen in the headlines that are working on things behind the scene that we're grateful for pushing the bar, raising the bar for all of us. But these are the folks that are in GA that have fulfilled the Medicare app library requirements. They have privacy and security review. They have the identity layer and patient matching verified. They have FHIR integration confirmed. And not as a demo just for a couple people, but in the real world for anyone who wants to pick it up from the app library. With all that said, okay, Andor Health, Be Well, Bearwise, See the Signs, Coligomed, Conxus, Siren Care, Doctronic, Fasten Health, Fidon Care, Flexpa, Flight Health, Frotart Theracare, Google, Verily, Guava Health, How3, Habitnu, Health eServices, CVS Health, Health 100, HealthX, Health Tree Foundation, Humetrics, In Pursuit Health, January AI, Carawell AI, Medikarma, Microsoft AI, Empower Me, My Digi Records, My Med Access, My Benny AI, Primary Record, Noom, Patient-Centric Solutions, Patientory, Polygon Health, Samsung Health, Sabre Health, Seekster, Serene Care, ShareCare, Slothwise, SyncMD, Triangle Health, Wall Connector, WallDoc, Whoop, ZocDoc, ZPaper. Thank you all.
We also had a late breaking one that didn't make it into the notes this morning. In the EHR category, Elation helped made it as well. Please stand. So also, I think the patients and the government agencies and the work group people sat down. So please stand up if you're sitting. And I just want you to take a look around this room at how many people are standing and how many people delivered on what they said they would do. And I think that's pretty amazing. So let's give everyone a hand of applause. So now everyone that is standing, we're going to do one group photo. So if you could all please come up to the stage. Come on up.
I know. Well, I'm right now. Okay, fill in. We're gonna fill in. Come on, fill in.
Don't be shy. Come on up.
Come on. Don't worry. We have clear. There's feel better, right? I'm moving. Well, that's like that. I go. We're gonna have to go. We're actually gonna start people in the front.
You should feel unsafe. Why? Of all people. Why should I be the front?
Rest of it. No, it's fine. Do we have the ladder? Does he have the ladder? Okay, good. Freaking 6-foot ladder was it?
The goodies are here. Am I doing John next?
Yeah, you were next. You don't need a clicker. I don't think they need a clicker, right? And while everybody's getting back in their seats, we're going to have the fireside chat now with Dr. Oz and John Doerr. So we're going to set up for that. So make sure you get in your seats because you don't want to miss this. But everyone that was just up on the stage, your company has a certificate for you to pick up for your accomplishment. And so make sure you get that before you leave as well. We're going to have a break right after this fireside chat. So hang in with us for 30 minutes and you can all get a break.
Hello. Congratulations. Congratulations to you.
I know. Look at here we are.
We're gonna have a fire, John. We're having a fire. We're gonna have a fire. You ready?
John, we made it happen.
We made it happen in every dimension.
Look at that. Oh my gosh.
Well, it's my pleasure to close off these recognitions of accomplishment with a fireside chat with the infamous Dr. Oz. And as you know well, he's a cardiothoracic surgeon, a professor emeritus. He's won 9 Daytime Emmy Awards, 8 New York Times bestsellers, an accomplishment I admire enormously. And he's the 17th administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. You know, I've spent 40 years backing entrepreneurs, and here's what I've learned. Ideas are easy. Execution is everything, and it takes a team to win. Dr. Oz is a team builder. He builds teams. He assembled a remarkable team at CMS from outside and inside the government. Operators who've built companies, working alongside of dedicated civil servants who've run Medicare and Medicaid for decades. Then he went out and built a second team. That second team is you. He asked you to volunteer. And today, 800 organizations have responded to that call, pulling in the same direction. What we're going to do for the next few minutes is dive into the details, go behind the scenes of what he was thinking and feeling, how he assembled these teams that we're all very proud to be part of today. So as I embark on this conversation, please join me in a round of applause for the great Dr. Oz. Looking back on the astonishing progress that's been made in just 12 months, would you be really honest with me? A year ago, what odds did you give this program of succeeding? And what's impressed you about how it's come together?
Well, John, there we are. You know, failure was not an option. It's still not an option. The risks that we take by not deciding, by not moving forward on some of these opportunities is too great. And I actually think the bigger upside, and we'll talk about some of these details, is what we develop over the next 2-3 years will most likely shape the way this industry looks in the next generation. You had Michelle Farber up here. Michelle Farber is from the FDA, and she's from the device section of the FDA. Are we going to regulate the industry like it's a device or like it's a person? And these are important questions. Tons of deep thinking has gone into this. But much of what we're talking about today, those questions we weren't thinking of asking a year ago. So the real issue for me is, what was the first step? And then go to the next one, and so on and so forth. And you pointed out the importance of the audience. By the way, it's rare that I speak in front of an audience where someone in the audience has more Emmys than me, more years on television than me. Montel Williams is here. Montel, stand up if you don't mind. If you really want to know how to do an interview, talk to Montel, who served in our military. He's talked about this publicly, has MS, and has done incredible things with his condition that has allowed him to prosper. Done a lot of things that were unorthodox. I think that's what we try to do here, too. Break the mold. Don't get locked in the way things were always done. One of the most dangerous things that you hear in surgery when you ask why we're doing it that way is, well, we've always done it that way. You know what a radical mastectomy is? Radical mastectomy, don't do them anymore, but when women had breast cancer, they would take the breast off, and then to be sure you got the cancer, you take the soft tissue off, and then to be sure you got the cancer, you take the pectoralis muscle off. So women were left with basically a bone cage, where of course doesn't support your body, so you'd cave in like this. But to save their life from breast cancer, but what if it didn't save their life from breast cancer? What if it had no impact on overall survival? My institution, Columbia University, invented that operation, together with a few others like Hopkins. We were one of the last institutions to do it. I took care of women who'd had radical mastectomies before I started. Thank goodness it had been observed to be not only disfiguring but dysfunctional as a procedure, but it took decades for that to happen. Much of what we're facing right now at CMS are rules that were made decades ago at a time when people had no potential even vision for this world coming to bear. What do you do now? When the rules that were made seem to be designed for a different era and worked well in intervening years, but clearly are dysfunctional. And it's sort of like how you deal with people who are dysfunctional, right? Most of our bad habits were initially very adaptive habits and then became maladaptive over time as we began to use them differently. I think many of you are here because you, like me and others involved in the endeavor, and I'm going to point out that listen, when people talked about bulk fiber, I thought they were talking about Metamucil. I thought it was psyllium husks. Until Anthony had talked a little earlier, said, well, no, it means you shipped via fiber in bulk. But you can understand how I might got that wrong. But because, bulk, by the way, bulk is good for your intestines. I don't want to throw you off the lead here. But that's, I had world experts, people in this room, and many of you, and Amy pointed to this, we are recruiting actively. She's hired dozens of engineers. When we came into the administration, we had 9 engineers at CMS, 9, single digit. You can't run a program of this nature. We had a COBOL-based billing system, which we still have, by the way, circa 79, don't have any engineers really, they can program it. So all that's being changed in a rapid pace. Rapid pace in government is over a 1 to 2 year period. But it's all changing because we said to ourselves, we will not leave this administration without making it easy to do the right thing in the next administration.
So how many engineers do we have now?
Probably dozens, like 60, 70, you think? Yes, in the 70s. I meet with them. They pack the room. I actually meet with the tech team every week because it moves so fast that I feel I need someone to translate to me what I just read.
And what are the joys and benefits of being one of these engineers?
The joys and benefits are you're part of history. Listen, the pitch is very simple. If you come and work with us, you will change the world, and for the rest of your life, you'll have that feather in your cap. You'll know deep in your heart you made something unimaginable happen and saved millions by doing it. If you don't come, you'll also regret it. Because if we fail, and you could have been part of the solution that saved this effort and allowed it to prosper, you'll blame yourself. So either way, you got to come. And that's the reason we think that it's a pretty good offering. It's a harmonious team. We spend a lot of time making sure folks just get along. We don't have the luxury of fighting with each other about small stuff. We try to de-escalate conflicts, both internally but also with you as well. The power to convene that was mentioned earlier is the most powerful epiphany I had in this seat. I thought this job was, I go complain to Congress if I don't like something so they can write a law. Well, they tend to take a meat cleaver to the problem. Doesn't work quite as effectively as I would have hoped. Or we pass regulations. They also tend to be problematic at times. They take a while as well, and you get litigation frequently to slow you down. But the real opportunity we have at CMS in particular is CMS, unlike other agencies in government, we're not just a regulator. We don't just call balls and strikes. We have other lever arms to influence your behavior.
You've paid for the balls and strikes.
We pay for the balls and strikes. We pay the pitcher and the catcher and the umpire, everybody. And so we can say, hey, listen, we prefer you make the strike zone bigger because it's not being called the right way. Or we want to incentivize you to bring better umpires in to make better calls, or to improve pitching, or just we're going to put a time clock in. We can make all kinds of things happen because when we pay, we incentivize. And that actually is going to come up later in this discussion, is a very, very important opportunity and risk. If we get it wrong, we'll incentivize the wrong kinds of parasitic behavior or carnivorous behavior. And that is the bigger risk you have when you make the wrong rules.
Well, let's go there straight away. What is the big idea here with payments? What are you trying to do?
If we allow technology-based solutions, like AI, to work within the current billing system, it will be inflationary, right? I can see 10 patients a day, and I have billing codes that I use for those 10 patients. With your help, I could see 20 patients a day and bill twice as much, but not do any more good. So if the system is based on bulk, on volume, then you can use technology to get people like me to take care of more folks, at least it would seem, but really what I'm doing is seeing more people and generating more billing, and we're seeing that now. It happens, and by the way, I will definitely upbill as much as I can. With your help, I'll be able to identify every small little irrelevant problem a patient has and collect more money because of that. However, if we do what we should do, which is change the incentive structure, and instead of paying for more procedures, pay for better value, now technology can help me, using different types of payment systems, achieve goals that you should actually want, which is how many people can I take care of effectively to reduce complications of their metabolic syndrome? Thus, how many fewer renal failure cases needing dialysis? How many fewer heart attacks? How many fewer strokes, less dementia? How many more families, like Cory Boglarski's family, are going to exist in America, or fathers walking their daughter down the aisle or grandparents playing with their kids are going to have, because we actually built a system based on quality. That's why what you're doing is so important, because you're teaching the American people that the data is theirs, and they could use that data to turbocharge the quality of care they're getting, and by doing that, you'll improve care in ways no one would have envisioned even a few years ago. If we don't build those rules correctly now, the abuses will bankrupt the system, and it'll be a more traumatic event when it finally does get corrected. We think it has to be done in the ways I've described eventually. Accountable care organizations are vital to this process. We've had trouble getting people to sign up for accountable care organizations. You know what that is, an ACO? Put your hands up. Good, everyone seems to know. So these are value-based arrangements where we're paying a group of doctors to take better care of patients. But guess who signs up for ACOs? The better doctors. The better doctors. The doctors who aren't doing things that are value-based, they're the ones, unfortunately, who often do not sign up. So the bottom half of the quality pyramid that you want in these accountable care organizations, they don't join. That's why we're fairly stagnant right now, and I think in terms of enrollment, and we have got to get better at that, and we believe technology solutions that you in this room are offering right now are so cutting edge and so cool, and what Abe spoke about, Abe Sutton, about the access model, allows clinicians and ACOs to be able to use these tools in ways that are scalable. So now an average doc, and by the way, listen, I'll speak as a physician. How many physicians are in the room? A couple? Yeah. I mean, we all finished top half of our class, right? All of us. I've never met a doctor who wasn't top half of their class. And so all of us think we're top tier. Unfortunately, when you look at the data, half of us aren't. And so the challenge is, how do we get the people who are not at the top to feel like they're at the top by giving them tools to improve their abilities?
So we're creating this health tech ecosystem, and we're introducing new payment models that are outcomes-based. Why do you believe that combination is going to work and be deflationary?
I think it'll be deflationary for two reasons. First, the most expensive thing we do in healthcare, without question, is bad quality care. It's not that we're fixated on quality. It's just when you do bad quality things, you cost the system money. You hurt somebody, which has a moral risk, but the person charging you probably is not giving you their money's worth, because they're charging you for something they maybe weren't capable of doing correctly. Then you've got to pay someone who is capable to fix the problem of the first person. Then you've got to deal with the whole downstream complications that arise from that. And I touched on this briefly, but I want you to think about this number. The value of just one more productive year in the workforce in America is $1 trillion a year, every year. That balances our budget. It deals with, does not the whole budget, but it makes a huge dent in the budget balancing issues, and it actually takes us in a direction that all of us as a nation wish to be. America prospers when its people are healthy and able to thrive. And for that reason, they work and they produce and they create. That's our secret sauce. It's us. And so by not taking care of people, we lose all that. In addition, we pay for a lot of things that we don't need. We think 20% of the healthcare budget, which is about $2 trillion just for this agency, the one you're in now. Think about that. We cover 170 million Americans, from ACA, which is Obamacare, CHIP, to Children's Health Insurance, Medicaid, Medicare. These are massive programs, and they're beautiful programs. Medicare and Medicaid created 60 years ago last year, spectacularly effective, taking care of our most vulnerable. And I don't know how many of you noticed it walking in the building, that Hubert Humphrey quote to the left as you walk through the front door, right? It's the moral test of government to take care of those living in the dawn of life, our children, those at the twilight of life, our seniors, and those living in the shadows. And that haunting use of light in that metaphor is critical to us to understand. All great people will take care of their most vulnerable, and we will do that because we're a great nation, but you also save your nation headaches. It's very hard to match the expense of a homeless person or a schizophrenic on the street or someone in substance use disorders. These are extraordinarily expensive conditions. We still pay for them. I'd rather prevent them or treat them effectively. That will save us money. We don't have the tools in some cases, but having a coach in your pocket whispering to you things that you should be hearing that you trust and is customized to your needs because you gave it to your EMR, that is a really valuable asset.
So in just a moment, some health system CEOs are going to step up here and make the newest commitment to this movement, pledging to enroll their patients in the access model by September the 15th. That's the same voluntary model that got us here today with the tech ecosystem, now applied to adoption. What do you want to say to them and to every organization that's still sitting on the sidelines?
Well, the hospital CEOs, first of all, God bless you for stepping up. The access model allows us for the first time ever to pay for digital tools that are designed around outcomes, not processes. I don't care how many people are engaged with your cigarette cessation app. I want to know how many people stopped smoking. We'll pay a lot for the latter, not much for the former, frankly nothing for the former. The hospital CEOs are creating a slingshot. We're taking the provider group, which has historically been lagging, and jettison them to the front to do what they know they should do for their patients, which is to empower them with information. Now when I tell a patient, go home and eat the right things, I mean, what does that mean? You know, that is the kind of statement that doctors make because we never really learned it in medical school, but more importantly, we just don't have time to walk through it again and again and again, so we don't do it well anyway. And so giving people tools that are designed for their condition, what I would want them to hear from me, or if I was able to be with them all the time, help coach them through the process, would be representative of that. And that's why I think this kill the clipboard concept is so critical. Because killing the clipboard, I mean, the clipboard was invented 100 years ago.
There's no lobbying group in favor of the clipboard, is there?
Not yet. I'm sure it'll come up. The wood manufacturers, but the paper lobby. But the clipboard was designed when it was created. The Columbia University, where I practice, was the first major center to have medical records. We invented the medical records.
Did they have clipboards?
They clipboards. That's where they used them. They literally did. They built the clipboard medical record system as part of the Hippocratic Oath to take care of the patient in front of you, the person that is trusting you with their care.
So how can we abandon it?
We abandoned the clipboard because, although initially created to protect our Hippocratic Oath, it's doing the opposite now. Like many technologies, its time came. It saved countless lives. Using a clipboard, we kept records. Records meant the next doctor could take care of the patient, see my records, hopefully. Wasn't great, but it was, pretty good for 1920. And now, when we have systems that, as you all know, are dramatically better at providing not just continuity of care, but giving me advice on what the person who just saw the patient would do if they were in my shoes, and even more importantly, giving the patient insights that they wouldn't have had. I'll give you one good example, may come in handy in your discussions. 50% of what a doctor tells a patient, the doctor knows that the patient's going to forget by the time they leave the office. 50%. Now, there's a lot of important nuances of that comment. First off, as a doctor, how much time am I going to waste teaching people detailed issues if I know they're going to forget most of it anyway? So I just speed it up, go a little quicker. Right now, if I have ambient listening, if the patient wants it, and I know that record is going to be transcribed and then sent to the family of the patient, I'm really careful, and I'm going to get it all out there. I started to tell patients, record the conversation, and I'm going to spend all this time teaching you. I want your family to hear it, so they're my teammates getting you better again. But the clipboard doesn't allow that, for example. So we have all these tools now. The second big thing about doctor knowing the patient's not hearing what they're saying is that the ability for us to translate what's happening to the family needs to be a separate discussion. So we'll literally call the family separately to talk to them about what we told the patient. And that creates a distrust dynamic, like what's going on here? And these are the kinds of things we can avoid. If we have one true North Star of what truth is for your case, you should know it. So should everyone else who you care about knowing it. And let's use that to your betterment. Why throw it away?
Now, the truth is you and I and everyone in this room know we're not close to being done with this mission. And so seamless scheduling, real-time benefits, clinical trials that are accessible. What does ultimate success look like to you 2 years from now?
Well, we need price transparency because it has to be a market. And we're not having market dynamics in healthcare because the average patient and their employer can't actually see the prices. And we have now built that with TrumpRx.gov, which is where all the most favored nation drug prices are. If you go on TrumpRx.gov right now and just search for a medication, and we cover most of the, more than 80% of the medications are on the site now, or a category of that medication. You'll see all the prices of that medication in all the pharmacies around here and even online. So I'm not trying to give you the cheapest price. We're just giving you transparency. Like just at least know what the prices are. You want to spend $2 extra, go ahead. But sometimes it's $200 extra. and you might care about it. We'll also give it to you in neighborhoods and place by place. We need the same thing for hospitals. We have the rules in place that Secretary Kennedy spoke to. We've identified hundreds of hospitals that have violated these codes, but we want them to fix the problem. I'm not interested in fining people or driving them out of business. I just want to make sure the data comes out. So we have price transparency. We also have to be very smart about benefits. The entire ecosystem is built around how long of a delay there is from when I take care of someone, generate a bill, send it to CMS. How long do I sit on the bill, send it back? If there's insurance companies involved, is there prior authorization? These are toxic elements to the system because you can very quickly intuit evil intentions for the stalling and delays that happen. So we could have real-time payments. Like, you know when you go to the coffee shop and buy coffee? Right? Those are real-time benefits, right? They actually get paid. They know they're getting paid. You know you're paying them, and you're not thinking, oh my gosh, I have to send it to my insurance company to pay the coffee bill. You have a whole strategy around this. You don't have to worry about it anymore. We can do that with the prior auth work that Chris Klump started at CMS with John Brooks. And the brilliance of it is an insurance company could say, if you work with us on exchanging data, we can tell you immediately if the person who needs that procedure, that test, that medication is truly eligible and immediately pay you for it. That takes about 10% of the health budget out, crazily. It's so massively dysfunctional. And again, people have made a fortune on these businesses, so they don't want to get rid of this stuff. You ask who likes the clipboard? The people who are the toll takers, the people who benefit from the kinks in the system. There is no way a system as sophisticated as ours would have come to this place if all the stakeholders realized that it was a problem. For many, it's not a flaw that we have these blockages, it's a feature. It's a good thing that we have these issues. And take the fraud, waste, and abuse as an example, not the main focus of this conference, but if we could just help states track their own data, they'd understand how far they were off from everybody else, and they could begin to focus on the areas where they're having problems. We could build heat maps. Hey, you're being taken advantage of with autism care or personal care services, or you're being overcharged for durable medical equipment. These scoundrels get away with it because there's lack of information. So a governor of one state doesn't know what the other state's paying for those same services. How would they? And people involved in collecting the data, they're upselling, they're upcoding, they're doing all kinds of shenanigans and taking a little bit of it, just, as I kid my kids, just dipping their beak in the stream of cash. Just a little something for the effort. But that's a lot of something when it's $2 trillion.
Your estimate of the size of the fraud is what again?
Well, we think it's $100 billion of fraud for Medicare and Medicaid and waste and abuse. And just to put that in context, if we could deal with the fraud in Medicare, just in Medicare, we would be able to double the life expectancy of the Medicare Trust Fund. So that anyone here is working their tail off because with a concern that Medicare will not be there for you when you turn 65, the greatest system for providing a safety net for a population, and it works so well. But if you're concerned about that, rest assured, if you deal with the fraud, it'll be there for your kids. Not just you, for your kids. And that's the kind of confidence we want to give to the American people. Fraud just happens to be a very obvious use case for much of what you're working on. But the real value is what I said earlier, that it brings $1 trillion of value to our people and allows them to live the lives that they should be living in a nation as prosperous as ours.
Let me ask all of you to join me in a round of applause for Dr. Oz and his team. Thank you very, very much.
Amy Gleason, the whole team, Alberto. By the way, I broke for commercial, Montel, right on time. It's 3 o'clock. And yeah, Anthony was very upset. So are we breaking for commercial now?
Yes. So I wanted to say, you have given us lots of feedback that we host events with no breaks. So just to prove that we listen, you have a 30-minute break to socialize, catch up with each other, do all your talking, but be back in your seats at exactly 3:30. Oh, wait, one more thing. For those of you that have met this, we also have created challenge coins. So if you don't know about challenge coins, they started in the military where troops would be able to recognize each other and they could prove they were with each other. And they've now become quite a phenomenon, especially in DC. There's challenge coins for everything. So we now have our Free Your Health, America Health Freedom Day challenge coins, one per company. When you pick up your certificate out in the back, get a challenge coin, one per company, one certificate per company. Thank you all. Sit down. We have to have nice things if you cooperate. Can you go out in the back? I did. All right, everybody. I know you love to talk. Please come sit down. One, two, three, all eyes on me. I'm going to pull out my teacher. We could also pull up those signs and let anybody sit, yeah. Like the ones behind you and stuff, there's a lot of signs. All right, come on and fill in, fill in, fill in. There's lots of seats still. All right, we are going to get started with the last part of our program for today. You've almost made it. So next we are going to have a great panel. So Anish Chopra is going to come up and he's going to lead a panel of people that are going to talk about what their experience was like in the ecosystem this year. So I got a little preview of some of this in the Slack. Some of you probably did, but I'm very excited to hear what all they have to say. So Harry, Tony, Julie, Amy, and Anish, please join the stage.
All right, here we go. Okay. I hope everyone enjoyed their break. We are going to have a great conversation today. You know, Amy, you started the session earlier sharing what made it different as you summarized the Slack channel. And her comments, as we set up the first question, had a lot to do with the mission alignment to make sure that patients were at the center, that message was reinforced in every working group. And so there had been a shared view that we are going to make this better for patients, and that brought us home in every meeting. So that was sort of Amy's initial reaction. We heard Tom Keene describing kind of a relay race analogy that we're going to walk and chew gum and we're going to make progress, and then that progress can be instantiated in regulation. And so there's a little bit of that piece. And then we also heard that this work is a foundation upon which other capabilities will be built and extended. So that's a great sort of summary of what we've heard, but today I want to hear from all four of you. Tony, you're at CVS Health, obviously not a small enterprise. I was hoping you might give us a little bit of perspective. CVS is in almost every forum. I think you guys have involved all the way back to Blue Button days. You did a Blue Button pledge on pharmacy, I think, at one point. Give me your perspective. What does this mean for you personally and the enterprise to be a part of this? What makes this different?
Well, thank you for inviting me. Amy, thank you for the last year and the team. So I came to healthcare about 5 years ago or something like that. Six years ago, okay. Coming from consumer businesses, so Disney, American Express. So number one, I love the focus here on the consumer, patient, member, whatever we want to call it, that individual that has the need, not the institutions, not the industry. So that was, for me personally, and coming into this, the idea of, yes, we, the patients, own our data, we want to do something. Now, you taught me something beautiful that I'm adopting it every day, which is the consumer-enabled healthcare, I think. It's like, so what can we do with this data in the hands of people to bridge the gaps everywhere in the consumer space? Very important. It's aligned with what we believe. A lot of us believe. Yes, we're in multiple places at CVS, but frankly, we launched something called Health 100, which is consumer-focused for everybody. And the fact that all this initiative started kind of made us believe, we had the idea, but made us believe, okay, this is real. We're not the only lunatics that think that this has happened, it should be like this. So this is real.
I appreciate that, Tony. We're going to come back to all of you for feedback on this, but Amy, you've been a pioneer at one of the most progressive health systems when it comes to value-based care and building an integrated experience. And you've been jumping in with both feet. So I'd love to hear your perspective. What feels different about this from the other forums you're invited to be a part of?
Well, Amy, I mean, why not? The same name. It's good energy, I guess I would say. For the first time, I've been doing healthcare technology for over 20 years. It was the first time that it felt like we were actually moving forward and having great momentum with common goals. So one of our mission statements is patients first. In the tech world, it's, in healthcare, it's easy to motivate technicians or engineers to do things that are patient or purpose-driven. So this really aligns well with us organizationally. We love to do things and put ourselves out there that follow that mission of putting patients first. So agree with everything Tony said, and really just was a good alignment for us.
Alignment, good. We're 2 for 2 on alignment. Harry, Epic was part of the OG to get started on the Argonaut project, and I think has been a part of every accelerator since. So maybe this is an interesting question for you. You're in all the forums, so what makes this different for you?
Well, I think that, Epic's motto is with the patient at the heart, and for a long time we've been focused on serving groups that have been the providers of traditional forms of healthcare, right? Providers, payers, all these outside the walls organizations. But this is the first time that I think we're really sitting down and hearing a lot of the very hyper patient focused feedback from all the incredible people who are in the room and who are part of the pledge, and hearing those different perspectives has allowed us to think differently about how to serve the patients and how to serve the rest of the community, who are in turn trying to all center the patient at the heart of this.
So we're 3 for 3 on the mission. So I think this is so far so good. No pressure, because Julie's role is the mission, so this is a little bit unfair. Julie, I was also sharing, it was really funny, back to my CTO days, Steve Helmsley, who's now back at the boss, came in to talk about interop, a very narrow and kind of in one would argue, kind of a niche topic at the time, but it was something that he felt very passionately about. Maybe what's it like from your perspective at an enterprise as big as UHG?
Well, one, I think it's also what's different this time. Interop is something we've been passionate about. We've spent time on our own individual health record, and I think working backwards from the patient experiences versus a regulation or just a data point, I think is what has been most special. Where we didn't start with a set of requirements. We sat down as a UHG team and kind of talked about what good would look like for us as patients and consumers, and then what would we have to do differently across UHG to make that happen. I think the other thing we realized is that we could never do it alone. We couldn't do it just as UHC or as Optum Health. We needed to do it together. But not only that, but we needed all of each other as well. We needed this community. We needed to push each other forward. And we needed all of us to come together to contribute to that. So I think that's a little bit of what's different for us this time. And funny enough, when we described those really good patient experiences, they mapped to the requirements of the pledges and the vision in this room and what we wanted to do. So much so that we actually decided to even take a swing at the diabetes pledge, even though we hadn't formally signed it. And now we're starting to build beyond just the original requirements into getting into coaching and other new experiences that we can start to do. But I feel like this is the closest to the mission I've ever seen in my 10 years at United Health Group and within healthcare. I truly believe this is the moment where we are going to change things for the better at a different set of scale, but it's going to be incredibly hard, and we're going to need each other even more as we go forward.
I want to second that, by the way, because talking about the interop, and we are doing it. Julie's team and mine are talking literally tomorrow about integration that has interoperability, and so this is real.
And so I wanted to get the initial emotion out, because I think the sense of community building and the circumstances, but what motivated you to be a part of this, I wanted the room to hear. Now I want to maybe peel the onion back a little about what has changed in what you've been shipping, or your thoughts about what to ship. Harry, I'm going to lean on you a little bit to start, because I think there may be some pragmatic areas that you might want to highlight that gives a sense for what others can do if you move off of regulatory cycles or whatever the circumstances are.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most interesting things about this novel approach is that it sidesteps a lot of the challenges with regulation. So, you can have all the standards and interoperability pipelines in the world, but if you don't have basic agreement on what is meant to happen and trust between the parties, you're not going to get very far, because you can't regulate trust. And so if you look at prior authorization as one example, we have 0057, we have these APIs that are required to be there, but that does not as much as a pledge could do
when it comes to actually sitting people down at the table and saying, okay, payer provider, you're going to go together and test this out ahead of the deadline and actually make it work in production and have a pipeline to raise issues and address anything that comes up that is, maybe below the level of a pure technical standard, but is in fact the kind of 80% operational work that is required to make something truly work for patients. And I might even toss it over to Amy because you've done some really good work in the prior auth space recently.
Well, thank you. We've been live with prior authorizations at Ashner. We are a 42-ish hospital system and about 400 clinics in the state of Louisiana and Mississippi and a little bit in Alabama. We've always focused on prior authorizations because we thought they were important for patient care. What a better way can you deliver care than to make sure that the care that you need, you understand what can be paid or not paid for. So we've been doing some of that through other Epic customers for quite 3 or 4 years. The difference here in what Harry was really talking about is that we were the first to go live with the API, the first piece, CRD, really understanding the benefits for patients using the API. For us, it was really fun because Epic gets to do all the fun stuff of developing and coding, and we don't. And this was a fun thing for our team to go out there, figure it out with the help and support of United and Epic to be able to get that done. So really exciting and already seeing some positive benefits. I don't have any stats yet. Before, we were about 30%. We're waiting on stats because it's fairly new to see how successful we have been, where we are with the first set, but maybe you know. Do you know?
Not offhand.
Okay.
But just for those who are watching that may not follow the acronyms, this is basically whether or not a prior auth is required, yes or no. So getting to a fast yes, meaning, let me say it the opposite, getting to a fast no, meaning this prior auth is not needed, allows the patient to have a fast pass through scheduling. To some degree, that's what you're testing in an open standard, even though you've been working with United, I think, through other means in the past. This is one using what is essentially a foreshadowing of the regulation. Is that fair?
That's totally fair. I think that's the best way to put it is how you just laid it out is we know immediately we don't need it, so then we can schedule that procedure and have that already done for the patient without waiting.
Yeah,
it's
they're not waiting. They're not waiting.
Yeah,
I love that.
While the patient is in the room, which makes such a difference rather than having to send them home and find out you're in the visit with
Literally,
the
this is not a 48-hour
Correct.
commitment, which is the SLA in the rule. This is actually
immediate.
like a real time, which is amazing. Tony, you wear lots of hats. Obviously, you've got the role you're playing with the consumer-facing Health 100 app, but you also helped evangelize some of this work across all of CVS. You had made some changes in how patients can access their data from MinuteClinic, I think, of some degree. One of the challenges has been, what does it take to allow the patient, as Alberto said during the funeral, that you have to verify your identity, and that when you do that, you get to be able to pull your records, but in some cases, you got to go back to log into more portals. How did this initiative affect that experience, and what were you able to do in a place as vast as CVS?
So I think one of the things I think you had the previous questions was maybe what's different this time or something like that. And I would say is that I think a lot of people maybe started with, oh, nothing is going to change. We've seen this before. But now a year later, they see that this actually worked. It really worked. And sometimes it felt maybe very rushed. And people are like, oh, they added something for the next in 2 weeks' time. What are we going to do? And I'm like, the answer is, we're going to implement it. Perfect. We're a startup, right? We need to be a big startup, right? And this team is a startup team, right? So at that, I think that kind of opened the barriers, the mental barriers that in the past existed. Oh, this is complicated. It's going to take too long. We need to. And then in addition to that, there was a lot of, let's say, technical education, legal education, and I think that's important. That's still missing. Yes, we opened our CVS instance for Epic's instance for MinuteClinic and Oak Street. Lots, a lot of patients, and we spent a good amount of time where we did the research, the legal, everybody. I'm pretty sure we worked with you folks, and we did it. Obviously, security. And I've seen a question, oh, this is open out to anyone. No, it's not open up to anyone. It's somebody who has the security and the IL2 security, and then afterwards there's a trust channel or chain that's in place. Now people are saying, yep, it can be done. And it's secure, it's fast, I see it right away in the app, in Health 100 app. Now my records from any clinic don't flow through any internal API. They go through a Commonwealth.
You're dog-fooding the same public ecosystem for
absolutely.
internal capability. Now, that is something that I think needs to be celebrated.
Absolutely.
Because the fast pass internally is just grab a connector internally and deal with it later.
Yeah.
But you're using the public rails.
And I'm going to do the same with Aetna for the insurance stuff. So absolutely. And that way, I can tell everybody, yes, it's working. Yes, it can be done. I'm going to go through the same processes. My own Aetna folks, and I'm working with Julie, so yes.
I want to come back to that as we get to the last session. But Julie, we already got the shout out for United helping on the prior auth piece. Is there anything else you want to highlight where you felt like the product roadmap is shifting on account of this effort?
I think I'm seeing that every day. I think the teams are taking things that they've built and adding to them seamlessly. So for example, some of our new Medicare members, when they join UHC, we automatically use the ecosystem to pull in their prior payers' information. We then use that
Wait,
to
that's
automatically
early. The
help
regs
you-
aren't even due until
That's
1/1/27.
right. We got a little ahead of that one. So thank you for everybody's help on that. And then also doing things like helping with a health assessment in real time and being able to use that through the Kill the Clipboard rails. So in addition to us also building those across UHC and Optum Health, through Optum Insight, we're also seeing the benefit of taking that to our commercial markets to help other payers and providers. So that's a huge part of my new role at United Health Group as well.
Got it. So health plans that may not be represented today but have a relationship with you can almost have that be their platform to facilitate some of these transactions.
I think through any relationship we have, we're here to root for, help, and enable the CMS health tech ecosystem.
I love it. There was less commentary, but I am going to ask the question. There was a process change in how this collaboration worked relative to challenges past, maybe my era, where it was like maybe jump on a call every few weeks, maybe a month, maybe don't know what's happening in between, maybe it feels like it's not making progress, is making progress, hurry up and wait. We now have a Slack channel that CMS has stood up, and so there's a daily kind of engagement. Tony, you even contributed some of the feedback about how to make things work in the ecosystem. Just maybe, do we give any love to the Slack channel for helping make this thing happen? I feel like there's a process benefit to this process. Any comment? Do you want to go first? Or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You have to stay, every morning is like, okay, let me see, and like however many, 50 conversations, they're interesting conversations. So I think it's very useful. This is how we work internally, all of us, I'm sure. In our companies, we've been doing it for quite a long time. This public and private partnership with these channels obviously is public information, we know that, but I think it sped up things quite dramatically, and everybody sees everything. So,
anybody else?
I agree. I would say it's meeting us where we are, where our teams are comfortable. They know how to use Slack. They like Slack. It's competitive. You get to see what others are doing. So for those folks like us, we like to see what others are doing. We want to do that, and we want to do it faster. And I think in general, it's informative in small doses and easy to digest. So you can read what you're interested in, or you can not read things that you aren't interested in, but you can dig in deep and kind of understand it's the same people that you they're your like-minded people.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think it is reflective of just the difference, again, between this process, which is so much more participatory, and regulation. And one outcome is that you're able to find somebody to answer your question, right? So I get a lot of individual DMs on Slack that I'm happy to help direct, and that helps move past some of the stagnation through existing process. Another example of why I really like this approach is that you have fun with it. It's important to have fun as you're solving these hard problems. So for instance, the funeral, or even swag like the MVP hat, which I'm very proud to possess.
Take a selfie, post it in the Epic Slack channel internally, and then you get the
Exactly,
feedback.
yeah.
Got it. Any comment on that?
Yeah, I'm going to hit a few. One, when the Slack channel came out, we were so excited. We're like, we'll take like 10,000 licenses. Let's go, right? We wanted everybody in there.
It's too expensive.
So believe it or not, actually having one of them to the CMS health tech ecosystem is one of the more cooler, coveted things at UHG. So thank you to all of my teammates that are on that constantly. I think you guys kind of mentioned there was something that this team created, and thank you to everybody that made this feel fun and purposeful. And actually, as a joke, when we started after Sandeep came back last year from the original pledges, we weren't really sure how we were going to structure around this. And I jokingly called it that we were going to put the fun in unfunded until we figured out what we were going to do. And from that moment forward, we had so many people that leaned in and changed their backlogs and their roadmaps and their commitments to push us all forward. So I just want to thank, the Slack community. I only get screen caps of what's on there. They're adorable a lot of times, too. And just all the momentum that we've created here. It's very special.
I do want to make a little PSA for the crowd. This is not regulation or collaboration. In the U.S. policymaking, standards collaboration is designed to facilitate. We just didn't have this infrastructure to support it. We in the United States have a private sector-led industry standardization default, which is why this makes it a bit more available. You can't do this in other aspects of things like setting MA payment rates or something. Maybe wrap up because we're at the final hour. Any final observations about where you think this can go? We're obviously celebrating the success of the past. Amy alluded to the idea that we're launching the future. Any pet peeve, excitement area that you'd love to see in the future coming out of this? Just a quick one if you have any, like, hey, I'd love to work on this next. Anyone you want to nominate?
Well, I think it's we have a way to do things that it seems to be working very well. Let's continue. There are plenty of other issues to solve. And by the way, interoperability is not just a matter of technology, not anymore. It's a will, it's a figuring out, the relationships. So we need to continue, just as simple as that, whatever the next.
Mine would really not be technology, more on education. We have lots of great tools now. We're doing a lot about interoperability, but how do we let our patients know and our physicians know and our clinicians know that these tools are available? So really keep going on the tech. I love all the tech challenges, but really how do we make this real for people
I love it.
Is my next thing.
The CMS FAQs were awesome on that subject, so I think that may be one it's a source of truth. Okay, Harry?
Yeah, keep making the tent bigger. I think get more people to the table, right? Make sure that there's incentive for everyone to participate, bring in new types of organizations as we unveil some of these next pledges. There's going to be groups that have not been here for the past year that we're going to need in order to make sure that the data are flowing and that there is positive reason for everyone to participate. And I think that's going to be critical to seeing this expand and scale to new challenges that are worth solving.
Last word, Julie.
I think I'm going to go with scale, right? We have the blueprint, we have the model, we have the community, we've all got pilots. Now, how do we scale?
I love that. On that note, let me say, can we all give a big round of applause for this wonderful group? It is my honor and privilege, I think we can all walk that way, to welcome back to the stage Amy Gleason to think about what we just heard and where we may be headed next. Give her another round. Amy Gleason!
I love that. We can do that anytime you want. All right, so we are in the final stretch, final segment, and we are going to kick off our new pledges. Oh, I guess we're going to move the chairs first, sorry. I'll wait patiently. Pallbearers to chair movers. They're getting their workout in today. Am I good to start now? Oh, the boards. We are actually ahead of schedule, apparently, for the first time ever. Oh.
Good. We're missing some. Oh, flip them.
By the way, these are our fabulous interns helping to set up. They are crushing it, crushing it. Not Fred. He's not an intern. Sometimes he acts like one, but he is not one. All right, now I'm allowed to start. So, as I mentioned earlier, a year ago, it was mostly Arda, Alberto, and I staring at a whiteboard and trying to make this happen. And we'd pull in other friends across the agency to come kind of work off the side of their desk. But that's not true anymore. As I said earlier, this effort has a home. We have the Office of Health Technology and Products, which is really exciting to have an actual team and a structure. Whose entire job that is, the unfunded team, unfund team, whatever, that's been us. So we still have a lot of work to do on the original goals. We've made a lot of progress that we're getting to celebrate today, but of course we couldn't solve all the problems in 1 year. So there's still continuing work to happen on the interoperability work. We haven't quite gotten FHIR subscriptions all the way going, our trusted delegate model. So we have some things we're still working on to close out year one. But we are ready to start our next effort that I said we're calling the end of the runaround. When you talk to patients about healthcare, that is what they tell you the most, is they are tired of the runaround. They feel like they are put in all these difficult positions and nothing is easy. It's always the patient's work that has to happen to make things happen. So we are going to take the friction out of healthcare so patients spend less time chasing the system and more time getting care. So, woo, yeah, you can clap, that's good. But the biggest thing is it's not just Arda, Alberto, and I anymore trying to corral people to do things. We actually have a real team. So instead of me doing any more talking, the team is going to introduce all of the new pledges. Thank you. I forgot. I was supposed to introduce our new Chief Patient Experience and Innovation Officer, Anthony Palizzi.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Amy. Meg? Slide. God, see what happens when I'm not at the desk? All right. Every patient deserves to know what care will cost when they receive it, not when the bill arrives. The organizations pledging today have committed to delivering patient-specific, personalized cost estimates through patient-facing apps and networks built on transparency and coverage data, existing claims infrastructure, such as X12 and FHIR. This real cost information is tied to the patient's actual plan and benefits before the appointment even occurs. Please stand and stay standing when we announce your names. First will be Avality, Be Well, Flexpa, Gigasheet, HealthX, No2, My Digi Records, Nirvana, RX Saving Solutions, RX Utility, Slothwise, Solid Health AI, Solve Health, Triangle Health, Turquoise, Well Connector, and Clogimed. Thank you. And now we have Leslie join us.
Thanks, Anthony. So our next pledge is real-time benefits. No patient should have to call their insurance company just to find out what their plan covers. So the organizations pledging today have made commitments to deliver accurate, real-time, and patient-specific information around costs and coverage for both pharmacy and for medical through standardized FHIR APIs, including the Consumer Real-Time Pharmacy Benefit Check and the Karen Digital Insurance Card. And the result? Fewer surprise bills, a lot less time on hold, and providers who get paid what they are owed. The following organizations will be taking this pledge: Aetna, Athena, Availity, Be Well, Clover, Coligomed, Cover My Meds, ECW, Epic, FlexSpa, How3, HealthX, HealthTree Foundation, MyDigiRecords, MyMedAccess Inc., RX Savings Solutions, RX Utility, Slothwise, Be Well Connected Health, Solid Health AI, Solve Health, Triangle Health, Well Connector, and WellDoc Inc. Now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague Chase for the next pledge. Thank you all very much for your pledge.
All right, for our next pledge, booking a doctor's appointment should not require a phone call, a portal login, or a 15-minute hold. The organizations pledging today are committing to making appointment discovery, booking, rescheduling, and cancellation available in real time through OpenFire APIs so that patients can schedule through any app without a portal, without a phone, scheduling as a first-class interoperable capability, not as a barrier to care. The following organizations have pledged to the Modern Scheduling Pledge. If you could please stand when I call your name out. Athena, Boston Children's, Coligomed, Siren Care, ECW, LK, Fasten Health, How3, HealthX, No2, McKesson, Meditech, Empower Me app, MyDigiRecords, MyMedAccess Inc., Solid Health AI, SolaHealth, Well Connector, WellDoc, and ZocDoc. Thank you all. And I'm now going to hand it over to Krishna Mehta.
Hello, everybody. For everyone who has not met me, I'm Krishna Mehta. I serve as a part of the CMS Health Tech ecosystem team. Today it is my pleasure to introduce the Clinical Trials Matching Pledge. Today, fewer than 5% of cancer patients are enrolled in clinical trials, not because they're unwilling, but because no one has told them that they qualify. The organizations pledging today are committing to close that gap through two pathways. Claims-informed signals routed to treating providers through the VRDC, expanding the work of Operation Trailblazer, and direct patient and provider discovery through the clinicaltrials.gov API integrated into apps and EHRs. Trial discovery should no longer depend on whether one clinician happens to know about one trial. The following organizations will be taking the Clinical Trial Matching Pledge: Arcadia, Athena, Be Well Connected Health, CareSet, Siren Care, eClinicalWorks, Epic, HealthTree Foundation, No2, Meditech, Empower Me app, MyDigiRecords, Ontada, Otis Health, Patientori, Polygon Health, the Sarah Cannon Research Institute, Seekster, Serenicare AI, Slothwise, Solid Health AI, and Well Connector. Up next is my colleague Fred.
So there's a different intern in charge of bulk fiber. This is bulk fire. Individual patient access to their own data in order to benefit their own care is the front door and the first priority of our efforts here. But we also need to get to a place where the clinical lessons that are learned and earned by one patient can be shared and leveraged by all patients. Bulk fire is what powers everything behind and beyond that first door, including things like quality measurement, care management, research, public health, and of course, AI insights benefiting patients at scale. The organizations pledging today are committing to make population health data exchange real, not just on-paper standards compliance, but operationally usable at the hundreds of thousands to millions of records with predictable performance and transparent measurement. This pledge to ensure that this type of interoperability works for one patient will also work for all of them. With that in mind, please stand when I read your organization's name. Athena, Availity, Boston's Children's, Be Well Connected Health, Devoted, ECW, eHealth Exchange, Epic, Humana, No2, Meditech, and Providence. Thank you very much. Zach, you're up.
Oh, there's my binder. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Jiwa. I'm not a real minister. I just play one on TV and occasionally for CMS when needed for a skit. These next two categories are pledges in addition to our Exister Provider Pledge. McGuire? Oh, she's already turned it. This next pledge is Pharmacies and Pharmacy Systems Pledge. Pharmacies see patients more often than any other care setting, and until now, they have been the missing node in health data exchange. The organizations pledging today are committing to joining CMS-aligned networks as first-class interoperable care providers, sharing medication dispense data, fill status, immunization records, and adherence signals bidirectionally with the care team. The patient should never again be the one carrying information between their pharmacy and their doctor. The following organizations have agreed to take this pledge. I would love for you to stand when I call your name. Assure Care, Cover My Meds, CPES in USA, Doc Station, some weren't able to make it, by the way, this quickly, Hy-Vee, No2, Kroger, and the McKesson Corporation. Let's give these pledges a round of applause. And I'll hand it over to my colleague, Jacob Schiff.
The Access model offers a new outcome-aligned payment option for technology-enabled chronic care. These organizations are providers who are all in on making sure this care reaches patients in need. They have committed to identifying patients who may benefit from these new care options, co-managing care alongside digital health and technology-supported care organizations, and using interoperable, standards-based workflows that connect electronic care updates directly into clinical decision-making. Every eligible patient should have the opportunity to benefit from care that does not stop when the appointment ends. The following organizations will be taking this pledge: Duke, Mount Sinai, Northwestern, Providence, Rush, University of Chicago, and Vanderbilt. Thank you. And with that, I'll introduce Morgan and Montel.
Okay, awesome. So thanks, Jacob. Before I get into our last pledge category, I am inviting the wonderful Montel Williams to introduce this next pledge category.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I know a lot of you are probably wondering why I'm standing here, why as a talk show host doing this, but since my talk show ended, a lot of you may not know that I got diagnosed with MS. And then after being diagnosed with MS, about now 8 years ago, I had an extreme hemorrhagic stroke. And a hemorrhagic stroke left me with a class 3, class 4 bleed, missed my brainstem from about 1/100th of an inch. Had it hit my brainstem, I wouldn't be standing here before you today. So I'm blessed. And knowing that blessing, I've really dedicated my life to working on medical initiatives that can help patients, help our warfighters live better lives. When I had my stroke back in 1918, having been a MS survivor and warrior for over 20 years, I had received MRIs every single year. But I happened to be in New York Presbyterian Hospital, and the doctor said to my wife, because I literally was completely comatose for the first 3 days, he asked my wife, I know this guy has MS. Does he have any other images of his brain that we could take a look at and compare? My wife, having a husband who she didn't know was going to make it or not, tried to reach out to every hospital that she knew that I had been to. Johns Hopkins, Walter Reed, King's College, the Nobel Institute in Stockholm, Sweden, and tried to get copies of my MRIs so the doctors could literally process them. But unfortunately, after 4 weeks, none of those images arrived. And some of them arrived and could not even be read. And right when I left the hospital, getting ready to go to rehab, I met an interesting gentleman who's sitting right there, Mr. Dan Heisman, who, at a shoot that I was at for something else, we touched base and he said, I have this company, it's called My Medical Images. And this is the most phenomenal meeting of the minds that has ever happened for me. Because My Medical Images is a company that can take any image, whether it be CAT scan, PET scan, SPECT scan, MRI, X-rays. They are stored in the cloud, HIPAA compliant, at diagnostic quality level. And they are now on my cell phone because I can walk into the doctor's office and just ask them, do you have an account? Click 2 buttons, touch, and my doctor then sees all of my images, all of them. This isn't something that's coming next year. This is here now. And so having an opportunity to reach out to Dr. Oz and say to him, you know, I got something I think you might want to look at. And he said, maybe you need to meet this lady, Amy Gleason. Met the lady, Amy Gleason, and sitting in a meeting with, I thought for a second that, you know, she was not paying attention to us and she got bored. She had turned her computer around and in 2 minutes downloaded her own account for her and her daughter and said, are you kidding me? I didn't know this existed. And it exists today. And so the fact that, you know, this organization is working on a diagnostic imaging acceleration work group whose focus is in ditching the disc, because remember, every one of those MRIs I got, I received a disc that ended up in a drawer. Some of them I lost, some of them I couldn't find, and I couldn't even stick it in my own computer because my computer doesn't have a disk drive. And a lot of doctors' offices, they don't have disk drives right there at their desk. So this gives the doctor an opportunity to not only view them on my phone, I can send them to his phone, his computer, or his tablet, just with one click. So I'm so excited that this is something that's going to help so many, and I really am excited for it because of what I know it will do for our veterans. A lot of you may not know this, but I spent almost 22 years in the military, both the Navy and the Marine Corps, and every time I see a soldier wounded and know they're coming back, I see an image of CDs strapped to somebody's chest or floppies slapped to their chest. They lose one, that means they come back, they gotta be reimaged again. The unnecessary reimaging, this will stop, I think will be one of those things that's gonna be a bottom line, billions of dollars. So I just wanted to have an opportunity to say thank you for all the work that you're doing. Morgan is going to talk to you about the Diagnostic Imaging Action Group and Acceleration Group. And thanks for the opportunity just to speak to you for a second.
All right, tough act to follow. So as Montel said, we are launching the Diagnostic Imaging Acceleration Work Group. Keep in mind, we're using that term intentionally. This is not a pledge yet. This is just a work group. But a patient who needs a second opinion should not have to carry a plastic disc across town to get one. These organizations are committing to making imaging data retrievable completely, quickly, and without friction through Fire Imaging Study, DICOM Web, and Smart Imaging Access with full fidelity DICOM images and no partial responses. Physical media is not a feature, it is a failure mode. These organizations are committed to ending it and working toward rolling out a pledge in the coming weeks. The following organizations will be joining this work group are American College of Radiology, Be Well Connected Health, Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center, Cleveland Clinic, Emory, HealthX, Intelerad, previously Ambra, No2, and My Medical Images. If you are here, please stand. Awesome. All right, with that, that is our last pledge to announce, and I will welcome Amy back to the stage.
All right, we have reached the end. So we have a few things left. First, everyone that just stood up and committed to a pledge, we want you to come up and take a picture. We're going to get that. Then you all are going to sign these boards for your pledge, just for a memento. Obviously, the real pledge signing happens online because we don't do clipboards, but these are for fun to hang up. And then all of the people who pledged, we have a certificate for you back in the back to take home to remind you. You should hang it up next to your desk where you see it every day, and it reminds you of the work that you signed up to do here. So if everybody will please come up for a picture. And let's congratulate everyone one more time.
Want to let everyone know.
I don't know where this person is, so I can tap it up front. We did it. I took an awesome color. We have Sharpies out back. Please sign the pledges.
Company name, right?
Yes. Company name, your name.
Another pink.
Finding the name, company name.
Hit them all, just go behind.
Good to see you. How are you? Good. Heard from AFC we might actually finally get some scheduling stuff together. They said increase their priorities. That'd be great.
Going green.
Yeah,
I got a decline.
do that before you get
For everyone who is not signing, feel free to socialize and mill about. That's the end of our actual programming. So this is signing, getting certificates, and hanging out and socializing. See, look, we gave you 2 times today. Thank you all very much for coming.